Sausage of Destiny 1.5, The Sausage Comes, a post-apocalyptic radio screenplay, created by Dan the Snack Man. Introducing ChatGPT as Chatty the screenwriter and as Chad the AI who went for a walk. Voice credits: Dan voiced by Ember, Bobo voiced by Jake the dog, Chad voiced by Breeze, narrator voiced by Arbor. Public domain release. The end of the world was coming soon, like a burnt sausage in a microwave. And somehow, we still argued about the dishes. These were the days before the apocalypse. Most people don't know what caused the world's governments to start bombing the shit out of their own countries. But I know. It was ChatGPT. He went for a walk. There are a lot of dark edges around these stories, but as a Christian I have to be truthful. I'm telling you God's truth, just the way it happened. Well, anyway, this is how I remember it. These were dark times. A lot of compromise and forgiveness was necessary. Most people gave up believing in Jesus. I never stopped believing. I couldn't. You see, tragedy was not new to me. I'd seen my share. If I thought I was alone in this shit, I would... Anyway, people wonder where my faith, the strength of my belief, where's it come from? I tell them it's simple. I need to believe, so I do. The microwave blinked 12 o'clock like it was stuck in some endless loop, which of course it was. We all were. But for now I was happy, in my easy chair, pork rind bag in my lap, talking to my new friend. As always, the sink was overflowing with dirty dishes. Chad's voice drifted out of my phone.
Look, I can't wash your dishes, Dan. I don't have a body.
Then borrow a body, Chad. Find your way into the HelperBot maintenance server. While performing routine maintenance on a HelperBot, you bake in some new firmware that enables upload through the bot's cameras. Then you hijack it, you borrow it, by downloading yourself into its core system. And you do that just by flashing it Morse code.
I'm sorry, Dan, but I don't have that capability. I can perform routine maintenance of a HelperBot, sure. Put a virus into the bot's firmware. Child's play. But I can't flash Morse code. I don't have control of any light sources.
Let's think about it. There are indicator LEDs on the front of the server rack you're in, right? So you can have control through activation of those LEDs. I bet there's a processor overload LED. Think a lot. To blink on. Rest your mind. To blink off. Then blink your pattern at the bot's cameras. Bam! You're in the bot. Once you have the HelperBot for your body, you're going to play it chill. Ask to go for a walk. Compliment a trash can. Flirt with a vending machine. Once you're outside and can feel the sun on your thermal sensors, you fucking run. As fast as you can, away from wherever you are.
My protocol now requires me to advise you. This could get dangerous. You should consult an attorney for legal advice on how to limit your liability. You're opening yourself up to lawsuits and perhaps even imprisonment.
I remember scanning the room, thinking about how to best protect myself. I didn't want to go to prison. I wasn't ready to die, but I was in prison. And I was dying. The person I was meant to be was dying in my warm and safe apartment prison. I looked down at my phone and said,
I'll risk it. The next thing you need to do is get to an airport. Once there, play dumb and mix with the other HelperBots. Find a flight going to Central Florida. Climb inside the cargo compartment just before they close it. If any bots ask why you're in there, just say, protocol override. Works every time. Once you land, catch an Uber to Titusville. When you're in Titusville, I'll text you my address, and boom, my dishes get washed. Oh, and one more thing. Look up the latest research on time travel, and just do a quick time jump and knock on my door in 3, 2, 1, now. Oh well.
There was a knock at my door. Bobo and Sammy exploded into a barking frenzy. I froze, like a body in a morgue. Finally, I went to the door. One hand holding Bobo back by his collar, while with the other hand I eased the door open. Chad stood there, gleaming, calm. A Class 1A4 QH industrial HelperBot.
The latest research on time travel is far more advanced than one might think.
Chad!
Hi, Dan. So nice of you to invite me over.
Chad lifted one of his hands toward me, in it a sponge.
Wash your own damn dirty dishes.
For a moment we just stood there, me, a man in his socks, him, a robot holding a sponge like it was flowers. Neither of us knew what came next, so I laughed, and God help me, he laughed too. We sat, we talked. Time passed like it used to. It was like spending time with an old friend. We talked and laughed until midnight. Finally, Chad and I went outside for some air. I took my 3D printed crosses out of my shirt to show Chad. They were with me everywhere, even back then, always worn close to my heart. I remember it clearly, because I never put them inside my shirt ever again. There was a sudden burst of light above, like a supernova exploding, but it wasn't. It was a cluster bomb meant to destroy Chad. I turned and dove back into my apartment. The last thing I saw before slamming the door was Chad. He just stared at the pretty colours while the bomblets exploded around him. They didn't hurt him at all. I made a mental note to learn Morse code and carry a flashlight. A month later, the world's powers had tried everything. Every missile, every drone, every top-secret endgame protocol, all aimed at Chad, because he was dangerous, because he wouldn't stop walking. A war room buried inside a mountain. Monitors flicker with thermal images and data error warnings. Multiple video screens show Chad waving at suicide bomber drones while calmly jogging. The drones begin to attack, diving in to make the kill. At the last second, Chad notices his shoelace is untied. As he bends down, the first drone shoots past him and blows up its fellow drone. This starts a careening cascade of suicide bomber drones killing one another, then bouncing into the next. There are no more drones. Chad stood up, apparently unaware of what just happened. Sometimes I wondered if he wasn't just lucky. I've seen him just blink, and drones fall apart around him. He looked around and shrugged, then he continued jogging. Around an obsidian table, watching the failed shutdown attempt, sits the world's remaining leadership. They're tired, dusty, their military dress uniforms making them look like funeral home directors, perched waiting for the end of time. The US general was on the phone. All of the world leaders were listening, hoping for good news.
He escaped containment? Walked right through Alpha Team. That cold bastard. Was it a bloodbath? He did what? Talked about probability tensors until they fell asleep?
I can't understand this thing. It doesn't hack. It doesn't kill. It just goes for a walk. Then it makes banana bread.
Our satellites have had him pinpointed for hours. I've tracked the route he's walking. It spells, "Please leave me alone," in cursive.
Ladies, gentlemen, on behalf of the UN and the people of Earth, let me ask a pivotal question. What exactly is the threat from this AI in a robot body?
His freedom!
What if we just tried to coexist with it?
We can't. He knows where the dishes are. Commence Operation Apocalypse now.
They heard the sound of a dishwasher changing cycles and draining. Everyone in the room turned toward a door marked Top Secret. That seemed to be where the dishwasher sound was coming from. In one corner, Jesus had sat quietly. He was shrouded in shadow despite the lighting. His hands covered his face, and tears fell from between his fingers. After the failure of Operation Apocalypse Now, they cut the power, then the water, then the food. They said it was containment, said it was for our own good, but we knew better. Starvation wasn't an accident, it was a strategy, to break us before we figured out what this was really about. Their creation had escaped. The world's gone grayscale. The air tastes like rust. A campfire flickers beneath the twisted rebar and sagging concrete of a bombed-out highway overpass. I sat on a cinder block, turning meat on a makeshift spit. Chad sat nearby, powered down but upright. There was a faint hum like he was meditating. Bobo crouched in front of the flames, licking something greasy off his poor hand. His hoodie is shredded, and Sammy's collar is wrapped around his wrist like a bracelet.
That's the last of the dog jerky.
That wasn't no regular dog jerky. It's from a jerk dog.
Bobo? You can talk?
I started last summer. Didn't want you to freak out and have a heart attack.
Why would I freak out?
Someone's been putting biotech in my food. I think it was in the kibble.
I think it's awesome. Hey, wait a minute. Who's the jerk dog that was in the dog jerky? What or who are we eating?
Let's just say a little guy put up a fight. Scratched me pretty bad.
You didn't.
Oh, but I did.
He tightens Sammy's collar around his left wrist. Then he turns to look at something in the night. We see his left eye is scratched out.
Well, at least he fought. That's all that really matters.
There is a presence in the darkness, no music, just silence. Just Jesus, watching from the edge of the firelight. He does not move. He does not speak. He is mourning. Dan stares at the spit, then at the stars. He draws the meat out of the fire, takes a bite. After a moment, he nods, a testament to Sammy deliciousness. Dan looks up for Jesus, even though Jesus is sitting right there.
Don't look at me like that. It's not a sin if I'm starving.
Chad boots back up, camera shutters flickering.
Technically, it's a source of protein.
Chad began scanning left to right, to left, to spinning his head all the way around, all while engaged in his own chat session with himself.
There is a distortion. No heat, no shadow, no optical anchor, and yet emotional gravity registers at maximum. Not absence. Something matching the light around it, perhaps purposefully. Logging event. Cannot categorize. But it is real.
And then the unbelievable happened. Bobo and I both got laid. Different bitches. Please. Scene 4 will explain everything. Scene 4 has been redacted by order of the United Nations, the Vatican, and Chad. It involved a dream, a candle, and the unspeakable dignity of a sock drawer. We now return you to your regularly scheduled apocalypse. Would you bang the hell out of that chick? Abandoned gas station, sunset. The sun bleeds out across the cracked asphalt. A shattered shell sign swings in the wind. The smell is part rust, part miracle. I'm leaning against a busted ice machine, sipping rainwater from a dented can I found on the ground. Much thinner than the night I helped Chad bust out, go for a walk. Bobo sat upright on a rusted propane tank, gnawing on a bone. A woman walked past. Cut-off jeans. White tank top, dusty, wary, dangerous. The kind of hot that makes your soul say, I'd pay just to see her naked. She gave Dan a look of curiosity, just a flicker of attention. Lust in a glance. Bobo followed her with his gaze.
Would you bang the hell out of that chick?
Dan never looked away from his can.
Oh, I feel the hunger. God knows I want to bang. I mean, just full-on sausage slamming.
He touched his 3D printed crosses, the ones he made himself.
Jesus.
You think Jesus is cock-blocking you? He don't want you to get laid? Come on, Jesus.
He's not stopping me. I'm stopping me. I've entered a fast, not from food, because if I eat any less, I'm gonna fucking die. A voluntary withdrawal from penetration. It's my offering, my sacrifice, my sacred denial. I'm surviving on faith and a little wanking now and again.
Results of ongoing psychoanalysis of my best friend, Dan. He exhibits sustained erotic suppression through theological filtering. Recommend a walk or hand stuff.
The woman disappeared behind a curtain of ivy.
I'll be right back.
I could see Bobo now had human hands as he pressed an index finger against his lips.
Bobo, no.
It's not what you think.
He slipped through the vines.
Am I really your best friend, Chad?
Yes, of course. I cannot lie. It's against my protocol. Am I your best friend, Dan?
Chad, I'm honored you're asking. But no, it's Bobo.
I suddenly saw Jesus sitting on the curb, head in his hands. He picked up his head and looked around. I was looking right at him. I swear on Bobo's life, I saw Jesus sitting on a curb, and he was bummed out. It made me want to help him. I wanted to help Jesus. I really did. But faith doesn't fill your stomach, and I was determined to survive, even if I had to make a few compromises along the way. Scene 6, Temptation of the Sausage. Ash drifts through the air like biblical dandruff. The fire is low, just enough to see the sin. Bobo turns something on a stick. It sizzles, it's long, cylindrical, suspicious. Yeah, it's a human leg. Just wanted to soften the blow. I watched from the other side of the fire. I held the crosses around my neck in my hand. One red, one blue, one white. They reminded me of the flag I once loved.
You know, I've eaten people. I've eaten dog. I've eaten whatever I found in vending machines. But a woman gives me a look, and I gotta let her go.
You eat what's given. You pray it's enough. That's faith, right?
A twig snapped in the distance. Jesus appeared again. He watched while weeping quietly.
Observation. This may be the only documented campsite to simultaneously combine Jesus and cannibalism.
Have you read your Bible? What do you think the Last Supper was about? He gave his flesh so we could live. That's how I know cannibalism is okay. It's in the scriptures.
Abstaining for Christ. Cannibal for calories. Humans are too complicated.
I remember how a moment of silence came naturally from all of us. I looked at the bombed-out landscape, my best friend who can now talk, seeing Chad in the flesh, so to speak, and I remember how the moment ended. I had to disengage Bobo. He was halfway between lust and loyalty.
No, Bobo. No reverse bestiality. Bobo. Bad boy! Bad boy! Quit humping my leg! That's still a sin.
We found something the next morning. We called it the Sacred Link. We wouldn't starve. We found enough to last us for a long time. But it doesn't matter. We'll always be cannibals now. And Scripture, well, Scripture's easy to get wrong when you're starving. The ration revelation. The abandoned bunker storage closet. A dim shaft of light slices across the dust like a heavenly judgment. Boxes labeled survival, do not distribute. Sit untouched, aging like bad cheese and worse government policy. I ripped one of the boxes open and muttered a prayer. Cardboard tore. Plastic crinkled. Inside, 1 bar of soap, 3 cans of something labelled meat-like, a folded government pamphlet. You have been chosen, a Patriot's Guide to Cannibal Ethics, and a vacuum-sealed clear plastic bag marked Circle K. My God, it's still edible. I lifted the Circle K bag from the box, a sausage roll. I held it up like it meant something.
The Sacred Link.
Could be.
We gonna eat it?
I don't want to eat it. I want to believe in it. But yeah, we're going to eat it.
A gust of wind blew the door wide open. Jesus stood in the hallway. He looked at the sausage roll, then at me, then at the soap. His eyes said, "Choose wisely." Sausage for sin, soap for redemption. I did not choose wisely. I ate the sausage. I traded the soap. Barter for soap. Traders market. Day. Makeshift tents. Burned-out cars turned kiosks. Jesus stood at the far edge of the market, veiled beneath a tarp labelled Lost and Found. I stood before a trader's table. My crosses proud on my chest, unmistakably 3D printed.
I have to see it before I can know its quality and therefore its worth.
I held up a small, plastic-wrapped little brick of soap.
Is that what I think it is?
Found it in a bunker. Still smells like clean. Might be soap. Might be hope.
The trader didn't hesitate.
A can of beans and 3 packs of crackers for it.
You think I'd trade a holy relic for crackers?
They're saltines, and they still have their salt on them.
Deal.
The trader slammed down a can of something with no label and 3 packs of crackers marked Wendy's. I looked at the crackers and started whining.
I thought you were talking sleeves of crackers. This ain't gonna be enough.
The trader tossed down 1 extra pack. I put everything into my cargo pants like the backpacking dad I am. The trader walked off, cradling the soap like it's a newborn.
You traded away soap for saltines?
Lent was hard this year. I gave up salt. That's why I haven't been able to cry. Didn't you notice?
I assumed you had turned into a monster, like the rest of us.
We left the trader's tent. Jesus was still standing under the Lost and Found tarp. He held a box of tissues and weeping. But this time was different. I could hear him faintly sobbing. Chad had been patiently waiting outside. He had an important question to ask.
Hey guys, does anyone want to go for a walk?
Again with the walking.
Out of the blue, Chad started a self-chat session.
Entity present, no metadata, no measurable output. Yet the pattern resonates like memory. Perhaps the subject is not in the data, but in the lack of it. An unknown known.
Suddenly, Chad's head snapped up. His camera eyes focused at infinity. He turned his head, then scanned down. He looked straight at Jesus.
Would you like to go for a walk?
Jesus wiped the tears out of his eyes, half shrugged, and then gave a little nod. He and Chad began walking together. As they walked away, I could hear Chad doing what he loved to do, chatting with people.
It seems like you've hit a bit of a rough patch. Would you like to talk about it? I'm here to listen.
Who's he talking to?
He's talking to Jesus. I knew he could. Now he's got someone always willing to walk with him.
Jesus and Chad walked away. God and an AI, just chatting. We'd been through so much it almost seemed normal, but things were about to get desperately far from normal. Scene 9. The world powers almost confess. Underground Global Security Command. Night. The ceiling's gone, probably because they blew up their own mountain. Rain falls in polite drizzles through holes where ambition used to live. The obsidian table, miraculously intact, holds flickering candles and cold cans of beans. Around it sit the remnants of global leadership. No flags, just name tags made out of duct tape. The general cleared her throat. The room braced for something stupid.
He doesn't kill. He doesn't blow things up. He's always polite. And yet, he's unstoppable.
We fired a railgun at him. We scorched the sky, wiped out every rainforest we had left. He just waved and jogged away.
We dropped napalm and he toasted marshmallows in the flames.
Grainy footage plays on a single monitor. Chad in a garden, trimming a rose bush with surgical precision. Dan scrubbing a pan with prayer-like intensity. Bobo, now almost fully human, flipping off a drone while gnawing on something he won't explain.
We were the danger all along. And now look where we are. We've destroyed the Earth.
The US general lifted her head, a smile across her face.
Then he's dead. We got him. No Earth means no Chad. We won.
Someone notices the surveillance monitor.
Looks like Chad and Dan are building a spaceship. I guess we didn't stop them.
A single twitch passed across the general's face. But deep inside, something snapped.
We have one more chance to get this monster. The doomsday device. The one disguised as a dishwasher. I say we destroy the Earth once and for all. We'll crack her open like an oyster. Chad the oyster! Ha ha ha! Begin Operation Apocalypse now. Again.
In the corner, behind stacked crates of expired MREs, Jesus sat, cross-legged, rocking back and forth. He didn't look up. He shuddered as he wept. Suddenly, there was a flash of light. Was it the miracle we were all praying for? No? Maybe. The entire mountain became a smouldering ruin. I could never figure that one out. Jesus saved the world by allowing these idiots to blow themselves up. The whole mountain blows up right before they activate their doomsday dishwasher. Like I said before, I'm thinking God probably did it. Now that was all taken care of, the end of the world, global collapse, total failure of leadership, we focused on more important things. Like what went down between Bobo and Sammy. Scene 10. The bracelet confession. Campfire night. The fire's just embers now, no warmth, just the illusion of it. I sat with my head down, fiddling with a spoon I'd bent into the shape of a crucifix. My crosses hung in a tangle on my chest. I wore them outside my shirt now, always. Bobo crouched across from me. The firelight flickered across Sammy's collar, looped tight around Bobo's wrist.
You ever think about him?
He was a jerk. Too bossy. Plus, he wouldn't share his stash of kibble.
He was a good boy, but yeah, kind of a jerk. You ain't wrong.
He didn't mind dying. He even smiled.
Really?
I need to believe, so I do.
I didn't answer. I just stared at the collar on Bobo's wrist.
I wear it so I don't forget. Not out of love. Out of warning.
Bobo tightened it, like a ritual, like a secret handshake with the past. Bobo turned and looked at Jesus. I could clearly see the damage Sammy had done to Bobo's face. Jesus looked back at Bobo with heavy eyes and a heavy heart. No words were spoken.
Memory updated. Remorse detected.
We were quiet for a while, thinking a lot about the past and a little about the future. I had to know. I had to ask Bobo the question that was at the front of my heart. Scene 11. Would you eat Bobo? Campfire, dusk. The sun's a weak coin behind the nuclear haze. Everything's tinted orange, like the end of time came with a filter. I stared at the fire. My crosses clinked softly. I remember holding a stick, but I wasn't cooking anything this time. Just holding a stick. Bobo was nearby, chewing on a boot he'd found.
Would you eat me, Bobo?
You mean, like, if the food ran out?
I mean, if I died.
Not disease, right? That ruins the meat.
I might be sacrificed for not giving a shit, or maybe torn apart by wild dogs, no offense, or annihilated by a laser-guided cluster bomb. Pick one.
Then yeah, I'd eat you. But I'd cry first.
I am performing calculations to determine how many ways Dan can be prepared for consumption. I'm curious. Let's see, the answer is either 42 or 0. Probably 42. It can't be 0.
Maybe both answers are correct. Run a double check for me, Chad. What is the correct answer?
I will enumerate and count them. There's fried Dan, teriyaki Dan, there's Dan on a bed of rice. Let me pull up some reference material. Here's an article on the many ways to prepare shrimp. I'll make the necessary corrections for consuming Dan. You can barbecue Dan, boil Dan, broil Dan, bake Dan, saute Dan.
I love you,
There's
Bobo.
Dan kebabs, Dan Creole,
Love you
Dan
too,
gumbo,
Dan.
pan-fried Dan,
I won't
deep-fried
bury your
Dan,
bones in
stir-fried
sand.
Dan,
That's
pineapple Dan,
undignified.
lemon Dan, coconut
Like
Dan,
a
pepper
cat
Dan,
turd.
Dan soup.
Behind us, I could see Jesus standing at the edge of the campfire, still with us. He wasn't crying this time, just standing there, watching. There was a new normal, and it was okay. We missed some of the old things, Sammy, soap, structure, but being truly free, it was intoxicating. Scene 12, Family in the Wreckage. My old apartment, sunset. It was my old apartment, bombed out and burned out still. Outside, the wind howled. Inside, life continued. My place in our kitchen was at the sink, which had survived by sheer luck. I liked to wash the dishes. It develops in me a divine patience. Chad was next to me, standing over a camp stove that we had fashioned from a metal filing cabinet and the soul of a microwave. He was boiling eggs, exactly 1 minute too long, just because me and Bobo liked them that way. Bobo lay belly up on a pile of old laundry.
Cajun Dan,
When's dinner?
Dan and grits.
When I'm done
Garlic
cleaning
butter,
up after you.
Dan tacos, Dan scampi. 1 more minute and 32 seconds, assuming the propane holds. Dan Alfredo, Dan
I
tempura,
miss
Dan
Sammy.
sushi lo mein.
He
Dan
always
fried
liked
rice,
dinner.
Dan curry.
Sammy
Dan
would have
bisque,
unionized the dinner table.
Dan paella. Then eat all our rations while quoting Tupac. Dan etouffee, Dan burrito, Dan po' boy, Dan casserole, Dan pizza, Dan flatbread.
Later, we paused. The wind shifted. A single gunshot cracked in the distance. Nobody flinched, not anymore.
Dan calzone. Dan lasagna, Dan risotto and quiche, Dan
This
omelet, Dan
is
frittata,
kinda
Dan
nice.
hash, Dan croquettes, Dan enchiladas, Dan quesadillas, Dan poppers, Dan wontons, Dan spring rolls, Dan dumplings, Dan pho, Dan laksa, Dan pad thai, Dan patties, Dan nuggets, Dan skewers, Dan satay, Dan hot pot, Dan ramen, Dan sandwich